Good evening, Internet. You're watching the NonPro TV Party Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. recap show. I am your host, Frank, joined not at all in studio by James and Matt. Say hello, fellas.
Hello.
Hello, fellas.
On NonPro's TV Party, we do a live Google Plus Hangout series where we geek out about our favorite television shows and invite you all to join along. We're not just recapping TV, we're assessing it. On this episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., we are going to review, I think it's episode 6 in season 2, Fractured House. With Hydra returning the world's attention to a beleaguered S.H.I.E.L.D., the U.S. government, led by one impassioned senator, is ready to wipe them out. Now, Coulson and his team must rely on the traitor Ward to save themselves. There's a pretty good synopsis. Don't you guys believe me and think that as well?
It's good. It's just even a little misleading, like all other good synopsises for television shows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a twist.
Yeah. So, like every episode of this series, we expect you to have already seen the episode, so there's not really a spoiler warning. It's a pretty interesting episode. I feel like I really want to stop praising S.H.I.E.L.D. every single episode, but this season has been especially strong, in my opinion.
Agreed. Very, very solid. I'm really liking it.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like each episode keeps on getting better and better, and it's such a much more solid show than season 1.
Yeah, it definitely knows where it's going, and I feel like maybe there was an episode. I mean, there's only 6 episodes out so far. Maybe one episode I felt was a little light, but for the most part, the story has been pretty strong. And in this episode's story, following up from last episode, we have Hydra agents masquerading as S.H.I.E.L.D. agents doing horrible things, and the U.S. government is spearheading an international task force to try to label S.H.I.E.L.D. as a terrorist organization and wipe it out. This activity is sort of led by a U.S. senator who seems to have some sort of vendetta against S.H.I.E.L.D. and meets up with General Talbot. And when we discover, oh my goodness, it is in fact Christian Ward, the older brother. It was the older brother, right?
Older brother, yep.
Yes. The younger brother is dead, drowned in a well. Remember, that's the whole story.
No. I'm not sure. I don't think that's how it ends. We don't know that.
I'm pretty sure the younger brother is alive.
Is he?
I think.
He's dead.
I don't think he's dead in a well. I think you assumed the ending of that. But
maybe.
Yeah, so last season we discovered, when we first started getting backstory on Ward, actually it was positive backstory. It was sympathy episode, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I know what my brother made me do.
Right, so Christian was apparently the man who made him attempt to drown his brother in the well.
Yeah, or at very least tortured him at every opportunity, or made him torture the youngest brother, and thereby tortured Grant Ward as well. So we first learned that last season, and it was like a sympathy episode, and then we sort of figured out only in Grant's backstory episode, after he was revealed as a Hydra traitor, that that scenario with his brother wasn't necessarily what we remember. But we didn't know anything else. We don't really know much about the Ward family up until this episode. And then we still don't know anything.
No, we do know a little bit. We know that he went on trial for at least attempted murder, that his parents and his brother and the rest of his family testified against him, and that he was convicted. Yeah. We know a little bit more than just the well drowning, but it's still pretty light.
Right. And I think our first bit of hand-wavium, if you will allow me, is that somehow no one in S.H.I.E.L.D. identified the same last name as this other person. Because Grant Ward was a S.H.I.E.L.D. operative, approved by 1,000,001 people, and in fact, Victoria Hand, I think, was the one who nominated him. I remember someone whining.
Well, actually, no, it wasn't Victoria Hand. It was actually Maria Hill that vouched for him.
Right. Maria Hill vouched for him, and apparently, he is also the younger brother and actually convicted felon who was involved in this murder plot. Yeah, that never really got around. I guess Ward is a super common last name.
Well, I guess you could also say that Garrett probably scrubbed a lot of his history, and like even when Garrett broke Ward out, Ward did actually have a line that says, "Well, aren't I going to be searched for? Aren't the cops going to look for me?" And Garrett says, like, "No, your family doesn't want you. They're going to want to wipe this under the rug. You're a persona non grata at this point."
Mm-hmm. So it was kind of cool to see Christian, and I didn't expect him to actually be a character. So
no, and I was really excited because he's played by what do you call it? Tim DeKay? Yeah, Tim DeKay. Whom I'm a big fan of. He's the main FBI agent in White Collar, and he's really good in that show.
That's where I see him from. Yeah.
It's kind of neat to see him, playing definitely a possibly villainous role. I'm not sure.
Is he? We don't even know. How is White Collar, by the way?
I really like White Collar. Last season's coming up in I think a couple of months.
Cool.
So if you want to catch up, it's all on Netflix.
We don't know anything about. We don't really know anything about Christian Ward. So we've got two characters in this episode. There's definitely like a split screen dynamic there, where Christian is talking to Coulson, trying to plead his case and why this black sheep in the family is an embarrassment. And at the same time, we have Grant talking to Sky about, you don't really know my brother Christian. I know what I am. I'm a monster, and I own up to everything I've done, and I'll never lie to you. And he is the real monster. Where do you guys stand on this whole thing?
I don't know who to believe. I mean, because first off, Christian, politician in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he's got to be evil.
He's bad.
That was going to be my line, Matt.
But I mean, I personally want to say, like, they're both terrible monsters, and they're both lying, but also kind of telling the truth at the same time. But I think like they're both right in saying that the other one's a terrible person.
I think Ward is telling the truth. For a couple of reasons. One, that backstory episode was we knew Ward was bad, and I don't think there's any indication to believe that Ward in that backstory we saw was an untruthful narrator. Also because I think he's proved that he hasn't been lying to Sky. And lastly, because if it isn't the other way around, I think, in my opinion, it gets really boring. It's just they put Ward on trial for murder, and Coulson and the team don't have to eat their words. And I think it's much more interesting if they're like, Ward, we're sorry, we need you to help us beat Christian because he turned out to be the more awful monster.
Yeah. It's hard to not be
meta.
Yeah, it's hard not to be meta on this. I mean, I'm certain there's going to be some level of grayness where everyone's just bad, and there's not much that can be done to save Grant as a character. I'm not as a character. That's not what I meant. I meant like to justify everything he's done. Like that's not going to really come up in any way. But can we make it so that Christian is even worse in some way? I find that very interesting. I would go as far as to say that it doesn't matter. Matt, you mentioned this beforehand in pre-production, that what an awesome thing about what this dynamic does is it reintroduces a bunch of who do you trust questions, which are hard to bring up once you know Grant is Hydra. Yeah, once you know that Grant was Hydra, it's really like that's it. He's the bad guy, right? How are you going to backtrack on that? It's not about backtracking. It's about introducing yet another terrible level of even worse or otherwise bad.
Now, I just thought of something. Well, I guess we'll get to that in a bit. But I noticed maybe a contradiction that I'll bring up.
All right. Yeah, so I'm really impressed. I'm glad they brought this in, and I'm surprised things were going to go this way.
I like it also because it brings Talbot into the fold. As kind of, well, I guess when they, all right, well, I started this, so I'm going to take us there. So
all right,
I know that one of the big point in the episode, obviously, is that Coulson says we need to go find Christian. We need to prove to him that that it's not S.H.I.E.L.D. doing this type of thing, and it's not that we're the good guys and Hydra's the bad guys, and that we can solve that. And Coulson's bargaining chip is Grant Ward, so he agrees to turn over Grant to Christian, who Grant is going to use put on trial for publicity, maybe, or just out of the good of his heart.
Because it's the right thing to do. His brother is...
Because it's the right thing to do. Which is my first contradiction I noticed. Technically, Grant already is in jail, right? He's broken out of jail by... broken out of jail, so he really doesn't need to go on trial for another thing. He's already... Anyway.
I'm not going to give you that one, because if you break out of jail and commit a worse crime, it's not like, you're back in jail for that jaywalking offense. Never mind the murders you committed. No, you would put him on trial for the other things he's done. So that's fair.
Okay, and then so that's Coulson's whole bargaining chip with Christian, but because of that, it's neat because it brings this alliance between the U.S. government and S.H.I.E.L.D., which brings Talbot onto the side of Coulson and allows them to finally get the relationship to work together. And I've really been enjoying Talbot as a character, so I'm almost more excited to see that relationship in the next couple of episodes than I am for the Grant Ward type of thing.
Yeah, I really liked what they've done with Talbot. Obviously, he's antagonistic, and he doesn't have the right idea about what S.H.I.E.L.D. really is, that the viewer has, since we have meta knowledge. But I like how they portray him as he's not an idiot. He's actually pretty competent, and he does his he's there to do the job, and he's not lawful stupid to bring in D&D terms.
Yeah, totally. He's good. He's a good soldier.
Yeah.
And he's good at being a soldier, and also he does what he wants. He does what he's supposed to do. He's not a soldier who's a general who wants grandiose designs or whatever. He's out for revenge. He's actually just doing whatever he's ordered to do. It's interesting. It's rare to see this kind of character. And I think every episode of this thing of our Hangout show, we've praised the portrayal of Glenn Talbot in the show, and we rarely ever say the actor's name. Adrian Pasdar, you may remember him from Heroes. I know last week I totally dropped the ball on his name. But yeah, I do think that's a great... the way the episode climaxes... Here's the thing. When we found out that Grant Ward was going to be worth something to S.H.I.E.L.D., I thought I knew how that was going to play out. That either he was going to have some sort of secret knowledge and constantly be the information font, and they've done it a couple of times. They've dipped to it a few times in this season so far, but not much. And to do that throughout the entire season and unto multiple seasons would have been annoying. Or he was going to, end up we need you. You have to be on the team. Suit up, but we'll never trust you. That kind of crap, and that would have just been really tacky. Even a normal escape would have been kind of pathetic. But the whole dynamic with his, it's genius. That let's say for a minute that Christian and Grant are playing some sort of con. This is how Hydra was going to get Grant out. Isn't that kind of insane?
Huh.
Right? It's all right, fine. I will. Maybe it was to be perfectly honest, it seemed always kind of a little iffy on how S.H.I.E.L.D. was targeted by the public. How much the S.H.I.E.L.D. knew about the public. I mean, apparently after the invasion of New York, that's when S.H.I.E.L.D. was become public knowledge. Then they immediately become public heels because Hydra was infiltrating them. Now there's no S.H.I.E.L.D. agents left. It's possible, especially for a group like Hydra, which is completely insane, that this would just be deep-seated agents within double agents. This is just a way to get one of their guys out. And I don't know. The fact that I'm now, despite the fact that I know everyone's allegiance in the show, I'm completely blinded to what's happening next. That's really impressive.
Hmm. I think it would be kind of neat if Christian does turn out to be okay, Grant. This is all to get you out and back on your side, and Grant on the other side is like, no, I still hate you. I hate your guts.
Right.
I'm not gonna go with your plan. And like, so now he's even a loose cannon amongst Hydra, which I can picture that if it turns out but it turns out to be a con. But I'm not sure I could buy into the whole entire long con game.
I don't.
I
I
don't know.
definitely. I definitely don't want Christian to be Hydra. We got Hydra villains, and we've got. Let's. I think a political villain is neat, or just giving us Ward's, family drama interplay
Mm-hmm.
on the global secret agent scale sounds cool. Heck, even just a couple of episodes of Ward's trial and all the terrible things he's done sounds interesting.
Well, we're
It
not gonna
just,
get that.
well, yeah, but
Mm.
it just sounds interesting. I feel like for a show that I think people had a complaint early on that it was very tropey, has done a really good job this season subverting all of the usual, like, no, the turnaround, the evil guy turnaround, and the this and the that.
I've been intentionally captured for reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm less interested in seeing Christian Ward as being a Hydra agent, and more interested in the fact that I don't, as a savvy, like a genre savvy watcher, am not sure he isn't. You
Mm.
know, that in itself, the fact that I don't know where this is going, it could go anywhere, is pretty impressive for a show that, it's hard to hide some of these things. It's so interesting. Okay, so there's two other things we want to bring up. We kind of want to bring up very briefly. We'll say Bobby and Hunter, their relationship on away missions. Yeah, I think it's pretty cute. They can't have Hawkeye apparently. So Hunter's doing a good job of pitch hitting.
I mean, I think it's funny. Their relationship, particularly this episode, provided a lot of humor. Bobby's real badass, so it's cool. The away stuff was cool. I think it was definitely a lot of the comic relief for this episode. A lot of the meat was going on with the other characters, and this was just kind of like the quick objective. But it was neat seeing them work together, and it was interesting because it showed that they were a good team, and I think it actually probably again shows us more of the fact that Hunter's allegiance lies with S.H.I.E.L.D. Even though I think they do put us in particular, like when he walked in with all the beers and stuff. They made us do a quick like
That guy.
no, that guy, yeah.
Yeah, I
Whatever.
really like the Hunter and Bobby stuff, and I kind of liked how it showed that both sides of the relationship are kind of crazy. Um, and like there's another bit of unsureness, like who was really the bad person in the relationship, or were they just really, are they both really just insane people, and like they just really couldn't mesh well. Um,
Bingo.
so I'll be interesting to see where that goes. Also, shout outs to Mockingbird wearing a Star Wars shirt. That was my favorite part of the opening scene.
Oh, neat. I didn't notice that. Again, I thought it was a pretty fun dynamic. I think the challenge is going to be getting me to care about them that much. Like, I want to spend more time with them to actually care about, how their relationship fell apart. Right now, I only kind of, like, it's funny to me that their relationship fell apart. That seems kind of horrible, but it's because they're not real people yet to me. They're just Hunter and Bobby. They're not real yet. To make them real means you're going to spend a lot more time with them, and the danger of that in any kind of like ensemble cast is people get mad when you're not spending time with the characters they want to know about.
Hmm.
So that's going to be a challenge. I don't know how they're going to do it. It's fun so far, but they're going to walk the tightrope for that. Characters I do care deeply about. We get the reuniting of Fitz and Simmons, which is a very weirdly conjugated name, because Coulson does at one point in this episode says that Grant pushed Fitzsimmons out of a plane I'm like, why are you still referring to them as if they were one person? It seems like this is a serious time. You could put an "and" in there. Fitz and Simmons. Anyways, yes. So we got the reunition. Why can't I say that word? Reunion. That's of Fitz and Simmons. What did you guys think of that?
I mean, it's just excellent. Everything about their relationship. Were you crying, Frank?
I'm crying.
Really?
I'm miming crying. Yes, it was so much their feelings.
Everything about the way they've been handling their relationship and the fact that Fitz says actual permanent damage is just like excellent and just so very unusual and so good. I feel like it's even more. Fitz just goes and he pours his heart out to Simmons, and he's just like, I needed you there, and you weren't. You left. Why would you do that to me? And Gemma she can't even do it. She's like, I can't have this conversation, and she leaves.
Again, yeah, she walks out as Fitz, and they're basically trying to fix a problem, and they're not working together anymore, and she's apparently looking down her nose, and it's Mac appearance kind of helps out Fitz. So what do you think about, I'll move over to Matt, what do you think about the next, so there's like stages in this. The first, the confrontation between Fitz and Simmons initially, and then there's Mac and Simmons.
That was another great scene, and also kind of heartbreaking because Mac brings up a good point that Fitz was improving. Like, he was becoming more social, becoming more more open to people, and especially to Mac himself. But now that Simmons is back, he kind of relapsed, and Simmons is kind of I wouldn't say the fault of that, but since Simmons comes back, like, Fitz has definitely relapsed a bit, and Mac brings it up, like, calls her out on it basically. But Simmons actually surprisingly acknowledges it right away. He's like, I know, that's why I left in the first place.
Yeah, it's sad.
Yeah, it's really sad, and like you could tell that Simmons is like feels terrible about being back. Like, she which is kind of shocking. Realize, like, oh, I had the fear of death over my head for months upon months, but the worst thing right now is that my best friend is hurting because of me.
Right. I feel like this is it was an awful, in a way it was a great scene and an awful scene, because you could see that there was really there's no fix to this. There's no one who's really at fault. Fitz isn't wrong. Simmons is treating him differently because she has to. He's not the same Fitz. He's suffering, he's in pain, and he's not complete. And she's just she's trying to treat him the same. Right? I think, James, you said that before.
Yeah, I think it's difficult. It's difficult, the situation is. The reality is you can't treat him the same, and I think the struggle is Simmons is trying to treat him the same, and the rest of the characters who knew him before know they can't, so they're just not treating him.
They're just avoiding him.
Yeah.
Which is horrible. And Mac is actually in a good position.
Well, because he didn't know the old Fitz, so he can't treat him like he used to. He only knows him now, so his relationship and interaction with him can be completely fresh, and it's just something that the other characters are going to have to get over. It's difficult, and it happens with any sort of like injury or any sort of debilitating disability that develops later on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame Fitz. I do not blame Mac, and you can't. And in the end, you can't even blame Simmons. She didn't leave because it bothered her or inconvenienced her. It's because she was obviously causing pain being there, and you have to pick what pain you want to create. So very miserable, very miserable.
That's a good summary of that storyline.
Actually, I think what's interesting from a storytelling perspective is I care a lot about Mac. I'm interested in what Mac's thing is, more so than Hunter or Bobby, and I think part of that is because they've done a good job of mixing his storyline with characters I already cared about. I think it's kind of, again, complicated with Hunter and Bobby because neither of them their stories tie into each other. Meh.
Here's my question. What's happened to Trip this season? We're getting like no Trip. None at all.
Yeah.
Well, I think his actor, like, he's full time on another show.
Is he what show?
I forget what show, but the reason why, like, he's only part time on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is like, yeah, he's one of the main characters for I think another ABC, it might be another ABC show. I'm not sure, which is why like you only see him intermittently. And also, there's the rumor that he was on set for Avengers 2, so maybe he's been busy with that, which is why we haven't seen a lot of him. But I mean, if it does turn out that like the Avengers thing is real, we eventually might be seeing him have a bit more of a prominent role, at least to transition his role into the movie.
All right, we're running out of time. If we're kind of done with what we want to say, I have one question to leave you guys with.
All right.
Okay.
My question is, May has been married before?
Yes.
What do you think that's about? Do you actually think she was married before? She didn't really answer. She just gave him a look, and Hunter just assumed an answer in that look.
Well, during the lie detector episode, Koenig actually asks May, "Have you ever been married?" And May says yes, and she goes and she pings green with that.
Yep.
So I think it's established that she was married, but
And sure,
you don't
to
know anything
who
about
is
the
who's going to be a somebody? It's got to be.
It could be Coulson, and I'm not just saying that because I'm just naming other characters. Because the question Hunter asked, I think, was, "Do you still talk to or work with your ex?" And she kind of gives him a look that could, in my opinion, be the "Don't be stupid, of course I do," or "Don't be stupid, of course I wouldn't."
Well, what did she respond?
She didn't actually say anything. She just gave him a look.
No. Hunter said something, inferred a response from her.
Well, I think it was actually Bobby who asked.
Bobby, I'm sorry. Yeah, Bobby inferred a response from her.
And I think Bobby's response was, of course. What was I thinking?
Yeah, that's like, you bastard, say something. All right, so I've been excited so far for S.H.I.E.L.D. I can't wait to keep watching. Do we know what the next episode's going to be about?
We do. I know they do focus a lot on Christian and Ward. They do meet up in some form or the other, but also keep in mind, it's not going to be on this Tuesday. This Tuesday is another Marvel special, probably focusing on Phase 3. So it's going to be 2 weeks from now. I know there are going to be a lot of Christian and Grant, but also I think they're going to see a return of Agent Carter in some flashback scenes.
Cool. Because, yeah, the writing on the wall will be November 11th, and then I think we take our break after that. Is that right? Maybe? It may be right. We'll tell you.
We have a short break for Christmas, but we'll probably be coming back to maybe talk Agent Carter. Who knows?
Yep.
All right. Sounds good. All right, guys. Thank you for joining us on this very special episode of our TV party. Stay tuned for whatever's next in the playlist. Or join us in watching The Walking Dead in about 10 minutes, if you're listening. Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.